Welcome back to Strong, Confident, and Informed, the podcast where we go beyond surface level fitness advice and actually help you understand what's driving your results. I'm Danielle Lemoyne, an online fitness coach who helps women build strength, lose fat, and most importantly, stay consistent without constantly starting over. Today's episode, I'm gonna be a little more direct, a little less motivational and surface level, and honestly, a little more honest. Because I think one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck is not because they don't want the results. It's because their current actions aren't aligned with the results they say they want. And that disconnect matters a lot. I think people underestimate how much their daily habits tell the truth. Not your intentions, not your goals, not what you say you want, but your habits. Because you can say that you want the fat loss. You can say that you want to feel more confident or lose 20 pounds and have more energy. But if your current lifestyle is not aligned with those goals, your results are going to reflect that. And I know that sometimes that's a little uncomfortable to hear. But I think we need more honesty about it. Because too many people are stuck in this cycle of wanting the results and talking about the results and thinking about the results, that without actually living in alignment with those behaviors, you're not going to create those results. And no, it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect, but it does mean that you have to be consistent. Because your body responds to repeated input over time, not your okay. And honestly, I think a lot of people are living in what I would call false alignment. They're doing enough to feel like they're trying, but not enough to actually create the results. So what does that look like? It looks like eating well Monday to Thursday, but losing control on the weekend. Tracking sometimes, not every day and not every food or meal that we have. Doing our workouts inconsistently. Maybe we're restarting every Monday. We're looking for those hacks instead of repeating those basics. And this is a big one. Saying you want fat loss while avoiding the behaviors that actually create fat loss. And because there's still some effort happening there, people convince themselves that they're doing everything, but they're not. They're doing things occasionally, and occasionally does not create transformation. Transformation comes from repeated aligned behavior. And honestly, this is where people get frustrated because they want the results a month from now without honestly looking at what they're doing today. But the choices you're making right now are shaping the results that you're going to have later. That's how it works. You can't spend weeks with doing inconsistent nutrition or skipping your workouts or emotionally eating every stressful weekend and constantly negotiating with yourself and then expect a body to magically respond because now you want it. Wanting the goal is not enough. You have to live in alignment with it. And honestly, I think this is one of the biggest disconnects with fat loss specifically. Because people want the outcome without wanting the process required to actually create that outcome. They want the weight loss, the confidence, the visible changes, and the compliments that come with it. But they don't want the consistency. They don't want to have that patience that it takes. They don't want the honesty that comes with it and the tracking that comes with it, the discomfort of changing your habits and the repetition of the basics, and even that emotional work that comes with it, with your behaviors. And again, I'm not saying you need to become obsessive, but you do need to be aware. Let's talk about calorie deficits for a second, because I think this is one of the biggest examples of what I mean here. A lot of people say, I'm in a calorie deficit and it's not working. But when you zoom out, they're not actually tracking consistently. And this is where I'm going to be honest. You cannot expect your body to respond to numbers you're guessing at. If you're tracking 3 days per week, You're estimating your portions and not actually weighing things out. You're forgetting about snacks or drinks that you've had. You're eating very different on the weekends. You're not logging meals that you're eating out. And sometimes there's that emotional eating, then we're not counting it. Then you don't actually have accurate data yet. And without that accurate data, you can't make accurate adjustments. This is why the first phase for so many people is not actually aggressively dieting. It's awareness. Because if someone says, I think I eat around 1,800 calories, but they've never consistently tracked before, and I mean for more than a week, we're talking 2-3 weeks of consistent tracking, then that number honestly means nothing. And I think people hate hearing it because this is what they want, is that quick. And I think people hate hearing this because they want certainty quickly. They want those exact macros and the calories. They want the immediate results and that reassurance fast without first understanding what their current behaviors actually look like. But coaching doesn't go that way. It's not about guessing. It's informed decision making. And informed decisions require honest data. And this is where your alignment matters yet again. Because alignment means that your actions support your stated goal. So if your goal is fat loss, alignment probably looks like consistently tracking your regular daily movement, workouts becoming a routine instead of emotional, whether you want to do it or not, or you feel like doing it or not. Your protein intake is improving. We're starting to plan ahead for our meals, our workouts, our sleep, whatever it might be. Our weekends are becoming more intentional and not just winging it. We're recovering from those days that we need to. We're staying engaged during stressful weeks, and we're repeating the basics long enough for them to actually work. We're not just saying, I'm trying. Because trying is vague, alignment is measurable. And honestly, I think one of the biggest things pulling people out of alignment is self-negotiation. And it's something I see constantly. The problem usually isn't one huge decision. It's the hundreds of small negotiations people make with themselves every week. The I'll start tomorrow, or the weekend doesn't count. This was just one small little snack. One workout missed is not a big deal. Or I deserve this, or I'll track that food later. Every individual decision feels small, but your repeated negotiations are shaping your identity and your outcomes. Because your body responds to patterns, not your promises. And honestly, this is why some people feel like they're always trying, but never getting anywhere. Because they're emotionally attached to that goal, while they're behaviorally living disconnected from that goal. And this is where I want to say something important. Your habits are getting results. A lot of people say, I'm not getting results, but you are. Your current habits are perfectly producing that maintenance, the inconsistency, the fluctuating progress, your frustration, your starting over cycles, and you feeling stuck. Those are all results too. The question is, though, are your habits producing the results you actually want? And I know this sounds direct, but honestly, I think it's empowering. Because if results were random, you'd have no control. But they're not random. They're built from your repeated behaviors and actions. Now, obviously, there are factors that influence progress, things like your stress and hormones, emotional eating patterns, and some nervous system regulation. Absolutely. But those things still do not remove the importance of living in alignment. In fact, sometimes those things are exactly why people need more awareness, because many people are living in patterns that directly conflict with the results they want. So for example, if you want more energy, but you're only sleeping 5 hours, you're not living in alignment. If you want fat loss while you're binge eating every single weekend, you're not living in alignment. If you want more strength and more visible muscle definition, but you're not progressing your workouts, you're not living in alignment. If you want that consistency, but you're relying entirely on your motivation and whether you feel like it or not, you're not living in alignment. And this is where people accidentally start to lie to themselves. Not intentionally, but they do it subtly. They convince themselves that they're doing everything, when really they're doing things when it feels convenient. And convenience does not create transformation. Consistency does. And this is another huge disconnect I see in the health and fitness industry. People dramatically underestimate how long real transformation actually takes. We live in a world where people think 6 weeks is a long time. 8 weeks should create massive change. 3 months should completely transform your body. But when it comes to your body adapting and changing, that's actually a very short period of time. Could you see progress in 8 weeks? Absolutely. You might feel better, lose some weight, you're going to build that momentum, you start to notice those changes in your energy and even feel stronger. But true, long-lasting transformation, the type of transformation we typically envision for ourselves, that usually comes from months and years of living in alignment with your goals. And I think people struggle with this because they're emotionally attached to quick outcomes. They want that reassurance quickly, that validation, the visible progress quickly. But the body changes slowly. And honestly, that's normal. Think about it this way. If someone has spent 10 years being inconsistent, if they've spent years of emotionally eating or disconnected from movement, in the years of all or nothing cycles and under eating or overeating and restarting, then why do we suddenly expect everything to fully change in 8 weeks? That expectation alone can create frustration because the timeline people expect and the timeline real transformation actually takes are usually very different. And this is where alignment matters so much. Because if you only live in alignment with your goals occasionally, your results will also only happen occasionally. Real transformation usually looks more like 6 months of consistency, 1 year of behavior change, 2 years of building a different lifestyle, repeated seasons of learning, adjusting, and growing, not just 8 weeks or 3 months. And honestly, I think this is where maturity in the process happens. When you stop viewing healthy habits as something temporarily that you suffer through and start realizing that this is a lifestyle you're building. Because the women who truly change long term are usually not the women who go the hardest, lose weight the fastest, or follow those extreme plans. They're the women who stay aligned long enough that they keep showing up, adjusting, learning, staying engaged, returning to the basics, and continuing even when motivation fades. And over time, that compounds. Because small aligned actions repeated for years create massive transformation. But people often quit before the compounding effect actually has time to happen. And honestly, I think more people would succeed if they stopped asking themselves, how fast can I change this? And started asking, how do I build a lifestyle I can actually stay aligned with long enough to see the results? That question can change things for you. Now, let me be clear. Alignment does not mean perfection. I think people hear conversations like this and immediately swing into those extremes. And that's not the goal. Alignment means that your overall lifestyle supports your stated goal more often than it works against it. That's it. Because you can absolutely enjoy your dinners out, have some flexibility, miss a workout sometimes, and just live your life, but your overall patterns still matter. This is where that maturity in the fitness journey usually happens. When you stop asking what's the fastest way and you start asking, What would someone who actually lives this way consistently do? That question changes things. Because long-term results are not created from occasional motivation or habits. They're created from aligned behavior repeated long enough. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from this episode. If you want a different result a month from now, 3 months from now, you have to start living in alignment with that result now. Track your food, honestly. Progress your weights. Get daily movement. Get enough sleep to actually recover. And stop starting and stopping. Be honest with yourself. Are you showing up in the way that creates the results you say you want? Are you doing it consistently and repeatedly? Because at the end of the day, your habits are always telling you the real story. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Message me on Instagram at DL Fitness Coaching and let me know what stood out. And if you're looking for support creating real alignment between your goals and your behaviors, that's exactly the work I do inside my coaching. You can find more details in the show notes. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.